Good morning. Happy Monday. Did you have a great Palm Sunday? Did you share with your family about Palm Sunday and what you have learned? How Jesus rode in on the donkey and people were celebrating him and praising him, shouting. That's right. Hosanna, Hosanna. Oh, so amazing. All right, well, let's take a second and let's review our eggs, our resurrection eggs that we've opened. So we've had the donkey that Jesus rode in on Palm Sunday. Let's set him up here. We had the silver coins that represent the betrayal of Judas, right? What Judas did, how he decided he'd give Jesus up just for money, for greed. We discussed the Last Supper where Jesus washed the feet of his disciples to show them how to show love, and how he shared the Last Supper, which we celebrate as communion now with breaking of the bread and sharing of the wine. Then during that Last Supper, he basically called Judas out, remember, saying, go ahead, go do what you got to do. I know what you did. Go ahead. It's okay. I know this has to happen. And he also told Peter what he would do, right? 3 times before the rooster crowed, he would deny Jesus. And then after that, they all went into the garden where Jesus prayed to God, his Father, and said, not your will, or not my will, but yours, right? Not my will, but yours, God, right? He said, if there's any other way, I'm open, but I know it's not my will, God, it's yours. So the praying hands. And then the guards came, and Judas went up to Jesus and kissed him, so the guards knew who Jesus was and who to arrest. And remember, Peter came in flying and cut off the guard's ear, and Jesus healed the guard and said, no, Peter, that's not what we do. And remember, Jesus allowed them to arrest him because he could have had an army of angels there fighting them all. But he allowed them to arrest them because he knew what he had to do. And then when he was on trial with the high priest and they were questioning him and this and that, 3 different people recognized Peter and pointed him out. And Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times. And then the rooster crowed. And Peter knew then exactly what he had done, and it was exactly what Jesus said. It came true. All right, so we're going to continue on our story, and we're going to open 2 eggs today, okay? So I want to open them first so you can relate them to what we talk about. So in our first egg, we have a whip. All right? And in our second egg, we have a crown of thorns. All right, so there's lots of places in lots of different Bibles where you can read what happens. It's really lengthy, so I'm not going to necessarily just sit and read it to you. I have things in some of the stories, they cover bits and pieces of what happened. So I am going to read to you the trial of Jesus and the Last Supper. So after Jesus left, the high priest took him to Pilate, who was the ruler. And there they had Jesus whipped and beaten. But Jesus hadn't done anything wrong. And the men who wanted to kill Jesus, the high priest, it was because they were afraid of losing their own power. They were very selfish, very much all about them. And so they basically wanted to do this to get Jesus out of their way. So I'm going to read to you the trial of Jesus. Jesus was blindfolded and beaten, whipped, right? And put on trial before the council of Jewish leaders. The council tried hard to prove his guilt, but none of the witnesses told the same story. Then the high priest Caiaphas demanded of Jesus, "Are you the Son of God?" "I am," replied Jesus. "Ha!" answered Caiaphas. "We don't need any more witnesses. He has said he is like a god, and for this he deserves to die." Only the Romans were allowed to put people to death. So Jesus was sent to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. This troublemaker tells people not to pay taxes and says he is their king. The priest told him, if this was true, Jesus could be sentenced to death. But Pilate was sure the religious leaders had made up the charges because they were jealous of Jesus. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked, but Jesus would answer no more questions. Pilate was sure Jesus was innocent. And just a little piece that's not in here, Pilate's wife actually had a dream and told him, do not involve yourself with all of this with Jesus. It's wrong. Don't do it. He's innocent. Okay, so just to let you know where Pilate's mindset is and why he was so sure that Jesus was innocent. But outside his palace, the priests were stirring up trouble and people were chanting, "Crucify him!" Pilate had an idea. It's Passover. And Passover is the holiday that the Jewish people celebrated when the angel of death passed over the homes of God's people in Egypt, right? When Pharaoh wouldn't let them go. So they were celebrating this holiday because it was a big one, right? So it's Passover, he called to the mob. As part of the celebrations, I always set one prisoner free. This man has done nothing to deserve death, so shall he be set free? No, yelled the crowd. Free Barabbas instead. Barabbas was in prison for murder. Pilate shrugged and ordered his soldiers to set Barabbas free. Meanwhile, other soldiers beat Jesus and forced a crown of thorny twigs onto his head, then wrapped a purple cloak around him and jeered, "Long live the king!" At last, Pilate took Jesus out to the crowd. The same people who had welcomed Jesus into Jerusalem only 5 days before now roared, "Let him die on the cross." So, crucifixion was a public punishment meant to warn others not to commit similar crimes. And that's what they wanted for Jesus. So here they are, all these people who just praised him 5 days before, worshiping him, Hosanna, Hosanna. Now they want him dead. And they even chose to set a murderer free over Jesus. And so they beat him with a whip, and then they mocked him. The soldiers mocked him by putting a purple robe and a crowning thorn on his head, a crown of thorns on his head, and mocked him, saying that he was the king. So sad, because that they did that to him. But he knew, and so did God. All right, guys, I hope you have a great Monday, and I'll catch you tomorrow for more of the story.